Hello dear students, welcome to the lecture series on Verilog HDL. This is module number 3, lecture number 17. Now in the previous lecture, we have completed module 2 and by now we know that how to write a simple Verilog program using different levels of abstracts. Meaning we are acquainted with writing Verilog program using behavioral modeling, data flow modeling and gate level modeling. Now we'll move one step ahead and in today's lecture we'll try to understand what are the different gate primitives that are available in the Verilog language. In the sense we try to analyze the different gate types that come by default in Verilog language. For example, the buffer, not, and, or, and other different gates. And we'll try to justify the learning with some Verilog programs through some simulations. So let us move ahead. Now, before proceeding with respect to all the gate primitives, let's try to understand what are the different gate types that are available in the Verilog HDL. Now, a logic circuit can be designed by using different logic gates, and Verilog do supports different basic logic gates as predefined primitives. In the sense, we can create our own gates and we can have or we can use the gates that are already available in the Verilog language. Now these primitives are instantiated like any other modules except that they are predefined in the Verilog and they do not need a module definition. Now we'll try to focus more on this particular aspect, what exactly we mean by they don't require module definition. So like I was telling, we can instantiate the predefined logic gates or we can use them as it is. I will try to figure out what is the basic difference when I say instantiating and without instantiating during the simulation. Fine. Now there are two classes of basic gates. One is and or gates and other is buff not gates. So basically the basic gates what we have been learning from the past couple of semesters are being categorized into two sets in especially in Verilog. The first category is and or gates and the second category is buff not gates. Now what exactly they mean? Now when I say and or gates, they under this particular section we have six gates that come into or that are being categorized. One is the normal AND gate, OR gate, XOR, NAND, NOR, XNOR. So all these gates are called as AND OR gates. And like you know, what are the particular symbols that are being assigned to different gates, and the same symbols whatever we have been learning from the past couple of semesters are being repeated over here, and the logical symbols are represented as per the figure shown over here. Now again, whenever I try to write a Verilog program or Verilog code, I should be very particular with respect to the number of inputs and outputs. So I need to be mentioning them, how many inputs are there and how many outputs are there. Now here in this particular slide, you can see the two input. These all are two input gates, meaning there are two inputs and one output. Now I can have multiple inputs and single output, or I can club them together to obtain multiple inputs and multiple outputs. Now how we are going to instantiate these and or gates, or basically these six gates, we'll try to see in the next slide. Now here is an example wherein the simple this one in a single program all gates are being instantiated. Now I'll try to run a program and then we'll try to figure out how exactly they are instantiated. Now as you can see over here, so let us not worry about this particular statement over here. I'll try to show it in the program and I'm going to simulate. Now here, look here, when I say and, so this is my and gate, and this A1 is nothing but you are instantiating this particular AND gate, and the terms that are present inside the parentheses represent the inputs and outputs. Now as you can see, always remember in the very beginning of the class a normal procedure that we have used. See, the normal procedure that we always now we usually used to repeat thing, meaning try to write the first term as, or try to mention the first term as output and the next subsequent terms as input. Now why we used to mention this particular way is because the implicit gates whatever that are present in the Verilog language, like for example the moment I mention and, you can see in the simulation the color changes to blue. It means they are the keywords. Now all the implicit gates will have their input output terminals written in the format as output first and then input. First term will be always input for all the implicit gates, for all the gate primitives that are that are available by default in the Verilog language. Hence, to avoid confusion, whenever we write our program, like I can create my AND gate also. Now, I'll be creating my AND gate, then I can be writing it as AND underscore gate or AND one or AND underscore G. And that time also, if I can write the first term as output and the subsequent terms as input, then there will be no conflict. In the sense, there will be no mismatch with respect to the available primitives ordering and the gate what you are going to write that ordering. So in order to avoid that confusion and in order to maintain that the uniformity in writing the terminals, we always prefer the first term as output and the subsequent and next terms as input. Now, similarly, the NAND has been mentioned over here. Again, NA1 indicates it is an instantiation of this particular NAND gate. In the sense, for example, there could be multiple NAND gates in your circuit, and how do I know that that particular NAND gate is NA1 or that particular NAND gate is N2 or that particular NAND gate is N3? So, in order to differentiate that, what we do is the characteristics of that N1, N2, N3 are of NAND gate, but the name what I'm going to mention is N1, N2, N3. That's the reason why I instantiate. So we'll try to justify all these aspects with respect to simple simulation. Now before that, let's proceed with the simple truth table, because once I do the simulation, I need to be justifying the values that are present in the truth table. Now this is a simple truth table that you have been learning in all your other concepts in your basic digital electronics concept. The same thing is there. Only the only difference is I have even considered the don't care as well as the high impedance state. So when I have, so I'll be verifying the contents of the truth table even by considering the states don't care as well as z. So when the inputs are having 0 1 x z, that is two inputs, so this is a different type of truth table. So when I have all four conditions including the 0 1 x z, what will be the outputs for input I1 and input I2? Like for example 0 0, it will be 0, the simple AND gate truth table. 0 1 0, 0 x, it will be 0, 0 z 0, because anything you AND with 0, the outcome will be 0, and anything you AND with 1, the outcome will be that number or the other number, provided the other number is not 0. For example 1 0, it will be 0, 1 1, it will be 1, 1 x, it will take the value of x, 1 z also it will take the value of x. So similarly, I have different values being written for the AND gate. Now I have all the truth tables being mentioned over here: AND, NAND, NOR, OR, XOR, and XNOR. We'll try to verify all these things with the help of simple simulation. Let's try to go with the simulation. Now, dear students, as you can see in this program, you have, as you can see in this particular program, I have written a program by the name get instantiation, and I have given the terminals out in one, in two, and I have defined them as inputs and outputs. Now I'm going to write a simple AND gate. Now, like I was telling, there are multiple ways to instantiate any particular gate. Now, like as you can see here, the and a and d, the moment you mention it, is the simulation window or the tool is taking it in the form of blue colored wordings. In the sense, as you know, all the terms that are mentioned in blue color are your keywords, and the moment I say keywords, they are the predefined word. And when I say any gate is a keyword, which means any gate is predefined, then I call it as a predefined gate. So hence the moment you write and, or, nor, XOR as it is, it will be shown in the blue color, and that means they are predefined gate. And if at all you want to convert, or if at all you want to write your own gate, then don't try to use a and d, rather try to use a and d underscore g or a and d g, any word which is user defined, not the one which is that is available in the Verilog library. So this particular statement indicates you are using a predefined gate and you are writing the program. This particular statement, the line number 31 indicates you are creating your own gate by the name and g, and then you are instantiating by the term a1, and then you are writing the all the terms. Now I'll come back to this line number 31, but before, let's go with this 28th line and 30th line. Now, as you can see here in this 28th line, I am instantiating a AND gate with the term A1. Now, this is always a good practice to instantiate. If you don't instantiate and if you keep on writing the terms AND out in 1 in 2 and out in 3 in 4, something like that, then the user will, or the programmer or the end user will be in a confusion as to all these terms are with respect to which gate. Like for example, I'll just show you over here. Like for example, let's say I'm writing this particular simple latch, simple SR latch or SR flip flop, and let's say I'm using an AND gate. So this is Q, this is Q bar, and yeah. Now, if I write a program, then I require four AND gates. How do I write my program? I'll be writing and then I'll be describing this AND gate. So this will be clock. So what will be my input? And this will be my temporary variable. Let's say x, y. So output first, I'll be writing x. Then input is yes, and more input is clock. Now this is one AND gate, this AND gate. Then again I require one more AND gate. Then for that, what are my inputs and outputs? Then I'll be writing again, and the output is y. One of the input is clock, the other input is r. I'll be writing similarly for this AND gate and this AND gate. Now, as an user, user, I can see the circuit and I can mention that okay, this AND gate belongs to this particular, this line belongs to this particular AND gate, and this line belongs to this AND gate. But let's say this circuit goes to some other person and he wants to rectify or verify the functionality of this circuit, and then he looks into this program and then he tried to figure out where is x is here, where is s is here, where is clock is here. Okay, so this line whatever you are mentioning is with respect to this particular gate. Now for him to do all this exercise, he need to go and do the search of all the gates for which you are written the code. Until and unless you mention something that this program or this line of code is particularly with respect to one particular gate, his job will be very tedious. Now let's say what I'll do, I'll in my circuit only I mentioned this is A1, this is for my reference, this is A2, this is A3, and this is A4, and while writing my program also I'll write A and A1, and this will be and A2. So when this program goes to another programmer, for him debugging this particular task will be very easy, because for him he can easily identify this particular code. He'll see and there is an A1, he directly goes over here and he'll come to know that whatever this line of code you have written over here is with respect to this AND gate. And that's where the instantiation plays a vital role and an important role. So it is the best practice to mention the instantiations of any gates you are writing. Now since this is a simple gate, it was easy stuff for you to identify the different gates. But imagine a circuit or imagine a processor which has got millions of gates, and if you just mention and you don't know which AND gate you are mentioning, it becomes very difficult for him to identify which AND gate that person is mentioning. So it is always better to mention any particular AND gate with the instances. So if you mention it with an instance, rectifying the error or verifying that particular circuit by identifying that line of code and going directly to that particular point will be a easier stuff. So that's where the instantiation is always a better one. Now coming back to this program, as you can see over here, A1 is the instance of AND gate. Now it has got three terminals, output and two inputs. Now there is one more line I have written, and without the instance. So always try to avoid this particular statement, whether you are using the predefined gates or whether you are using your own gates. Instantiation is always important. Try to mention the instantiation. No matter in all the three cases, your simulation works absolutely fine. I'll try to show that. Definitely there will be no error and output will be exactly same. Now when you write or when you consider the predefined gates like AND, which are shown in the blue colored format, the ordering of the inputs and outputs is always in the format of output first, input next. Now even if you change the value here, let's say for example if I make it as input and then output, I'll try to show you what exactly happens. But you just remember, the ordering of the terminals inside a predefined gates will be in the form of output first and input next, and that's the reason we try to follow the same ordering even in the gates where we use the user defined gates. For example, this is my user defined gates. Here also I try to follow output first, input next. So that again gives you sense of confidence, wherein we'll try to write all the programs, all the codes in whichever abstract level, whether it is behavioral mode, data flow or gate flow, the ordering will remain same. Whether you use sub modules, whether you use again one more module inside a main module, you will try to keep the ordering same. So henceforth we'll try to ensure that the first term is always output and the next term is always input for whatever modules you are going to write. Now let's try to simulate one by one. I'll try to simulate the first one. So when I will be simulating the first one, I'll try to comment out the other modules, other instantiations, because there is if I keep the all the three terminals, then there will be and a warning will be thrown wherein it says out and out are being repeatedly used. So for that, I'll try to avoid that. So first, I'll try to simulate the predefined gate and with an instantiation. So let's try to do that. So for that, I'll try to synthesize this. So I already synthesized it. I'll re-synthesize it again. So this is the synthesis that I'm doing. So we should get no errors and no warnings. And once I do that, we'll move on to the simulation window and then we'll try to simulate it using this particular option. And the terminal will open. So I have two inputs. I'll try to force the clock. Now again, remember here for the simplicity, I'm forcing the clock, but it is always best practice to write the test bench or the stimulus block to drive the inputs. So leading edge 1, trailing edge 0. Time period I'll take it as 20. I'll say apply. Okay. One more input is leading edge is 1, trailing edge is 0. Time period I'll take it as 40 because I need to get all the combinations. So it is always again a good move to double the inputs if you have two inputs. That is, if the time period you have taken for input 1, if it is 20, then you take the time period as 40 in the input 2. If there are three inputs, you take the other, so that all combination will be reflected. I'll show you how exactly all combination will be reflected. Now try to use this option to simulate. Simulation happens. Now initially when you see all the there is a single outcome, because that's because it has the simulation window is running for quite a large amount of time, hence it will not be showing any waveforms. So for that you have to use this particular option, zoom to full view. The moment you click it, you'll get small waveforms, and click at the beginning of this time period and try to zoom in as much as possible. Now you can see. Can you see here? The input 1 time period was 20. Look here, 1,003,600, and here 1,003, 620. So 20 time period. And what was the input to time period? From here it is 40. So leading edge is 1 for 20 duration and leading edge is 0 another for 20 duration. That makes 40. Leading edge is 10 for one duration. Trailing edge is 10 for another duration. That makes input 1 as time duration of 20. So that I'll get all the combination. Like for example, 1 1 0 1 1 0 0 0. So all the full combination are there, and you can see it is exactly reflecting your truth table, wherein you can see for the combination of 1 1 you are getting the value of 1, and for the combination of others you are getting the value of 0. Now this is the outcome of the AND gate for using a predefined gate. Look here. Now let's try to simulate the same AND gate. You can just remember here, I'll just try to close it. Then let's try to simulate the same AND gate now without using instances. Now if I simulate without using instance also, that will fetch you the same value. I'll try to again save it and I'll try to synthesis again. See, for any particular small change you do in the program, you have to synthesis it. In the sense, all these programs, remember in the very first module, there is an ASIC design flow where you mentioned something called as synthesis. So this check mark is coming. So that synthesis, it only indicates the all the program that you are writing will be broken down into small components that is understandable by this particular tool. So let me try to float the force the values 1 0. I'll mention the time period as 20, and then for input 2 I'll 1 0, and I'll try to mention the clock period as 40. Then I'll try to simulate it. Yes, output is coming. Use this option. There it is. Even when you use simple and without any instance also, it is absolutely fine. But the only difference is, in a complex circuit you will not come to know which AND gate you are talking. Hence it is always better practice to instantiate any particular logical gates, because the output is anyhow going to same. Here we are not worried about output. Here we are, as a good programmer, we are worried about how an user try to write a program which is understandable by anyone who looks into that program. Again, output is crystally visible. For all the combination, the output is visible. Now let us try to simulate our own AND gate. So let's try to comment out this, and we'll open up the AND gate, that is ANDG. So this is shown in the black color, which means this is user defined AND gate. Though it is user defined AND gate, what are the things that you are writing? A1 out in into. Now when I write AND A1 out in into, what does the statement means? It only means that A1 is an AND gate of what type or of what behavior? Of behavior AND G. And how is the behavior of AND G? AND G behaves, I should be mentioning over here, AND G output equal to IN1 and IN2. So let's try to write module and G IN1, and this is IN2. I'll come to this point what I'm exactly doing over here. Yeah. Now when you are simulating your own AND gate, just see the difference when you were simulating the predefined AND gate. See, I was telling, whenever you do any small changes, you have to save it. And when you are simulating your own AND gate, look at this particular term. There is only one program, gate instantiation, and in that you are trying to simulate the AND gate, whether it is a predefined AND gate or with the instance or without instance. Again, I'll save it. There is only one top module or only one main gate. Now look at this particular key. Please keep an eye on this particular term. I'm going to open up the AND gate that is defined by an user, that is defined by me, and for that AND gate I'll be naming that gate as AND G, because I cannot name it as AND, because AND is a predefined keyword. I cannot be using it. Now let's try to develop my own AND gate, and my AND gate is termed by, or its name is AND G. Now the question is, how does AND G looks, or how does AND G behaves? For here it was very simple. When you said AND gate, or when you said simple AND, it meant it behaves as an AND gate because it's a predefined. Because in the simulator, when in the tool itself, the all the built-in programs were mentioned. AND means it behaves like AND only. But when you define your own AND gate, that then responsibility will be with respect to the programmer, that he need to define how does that and g behaves. Now let's try to figure out the moment if I save it. Let's keep an eye over here. As you can see, there's a plus mark, which means if I open up, there is a term coming. It says, boss, you have defined a new gate and g, and for me, that is for this Xilinx tool, I don't know what is the functionality of AND G. Now I say that it behaves as an AND gate, that but then tool also should know how does it behave. Then for that, what I will be doing, I'll be going over here and then I'll be creating a new source, and I'll be, since it's again a Verilog module and its name is AND G, then what I'll do, since you are not able to understand what exactly this AND gate or this particular ANDG means, let me try to give you what exactly it does. So what I did, and question mark was there, I created new Verilog program over here, and then I went over here. Then what I'll be doing, I'll be just writing this program over here, which means now I am defining and G means it is going to behave like this. It is going to behave like this. Oops, there's an error. So as you can see here, rather than predefined gates, I am defining my own AND gate. And how does my AND gate looks? I have defined over here. My AND gate looks output is equal to input logical AND into. So I have defined over here. And so basically what is happening over here, the program comes over here, it sees AND G, then it tries to figure out where is AND G, because earlier you mentioned just and for a tool this AND is, it knows it because it is present in the library. But what does this mean? This means it tries to search in the main module and it goes over here and then it finds, okay boss, there isn't something called as AND, let's try to get inside it. Now it comes over here. How does this behave? It behaves like IN logical AND I2. So again it comes back to the main program. Okay, now I got to know that AND G behaves like input 1 and of input 2. And what are the main inputs that I am passing in this program? I am passing the first term as out, the second two terms as in, then this first term, these two second terms will be mapped to this first term and these two second terms. Remember, I can write any other terms over here, not necessarily I can be writing the same terms over here. I can write here y a b, y a b, here also y a b. I can write different terms, but the nature of the term should be in the same order. What is y here? It is output. What is a and b? They are inputs. Now here also that y will be mapped to out. What is out? It is output. What is y? It is output. What is in1, in2? They are inputs. What is a and b? They are inputs. So the program comes over here. It goes to this sub program and g. It goes over here. What it basically does is, the program while execution, it comes over here, it finds there are three terms out, in one, in two. Then I need to match these terms with a program of and g. Let me try to search where is and g. It search and it finds over here, and it maps out with y, in one with a, in two with b, and then whatever functionality happens over here, it gets reflected back here, and thereby your and g, that is user defined primitive or user defined gate, will be prepared. So let's try to simulate this. Try to synthesis again. Like I was telling, it should not give any warning or the errors. Green tick is there. Then go to simulation. I'll do this very behavioral simulation. So there are three terms. Let's try to force the values over here. So 1 0 100, and then we have 1 0. Let's try to force 50, and then we'll try to simulate it. as you can see over here, all values are coming. So that's how even your user primitives works the same way as that are gate primitives. But the only difference that you can find with respect to the user defined primitives and that's the user defined gates and the gates that are available by default is in user defined or the gates what you write, you have to write one more program saying that what does this do. But whereas with respect to the predefined gates, you are supposed to you'll not be writing any sub programs for that particular gate. Like for example, I didn't wrote any over here. Again, you can see the moment, as you can see, the moment I comment out this and to reflect when I say this and g goes, there it is. It comes out. It comes out of this main program, right? So that's how the predefined gates and the user defined gates differ. Now let's try to go one step further and try to figure out what are the other gates that are available. Now, like I was telling, in AND OR gate, there are different gates that are being uh, mentioned, that is AND OR, XOR, XNOR. So let's try to simulate them as well. The quick simulation. The instantiations are same. It has got output, input. I can write inputs 1 comma 2 in the same line. Then let's try to open up. Now AND gate is done. Let's try to open up NAND gate. Again, as you can see, NAND is a predefined primitive, but for the sake of good programming practice, I'm instantiating it. So out indicates the first term, in1, in2. Again, you'll get the similar kind of outputs with the moment you simulate it. Again, you can see the moment you say OR, it comes with a blue color patch or blue color wordings, NOR, XOR, XNOR. The moment you do something with respect to this particular NAND 1, then this is your gate. NAND 1 is no more a predefined primitive. It is user defined primitive because it is coming in the black color. Remember, blue indicates predefined values, predefined primitives. Black indicates user defined values. So always it's the best practice to instantiate for any gates, for anything you write. So let's try to comment out this. Let's move ahead with respect to next category of uh, predefined gates, which are nothing but your buff and not. So buff and not, as I was discussing over here in the previous slides, it has got only single input and single output, and they basically are simple NOT gates and buffers. And as you can see, the symbol is mentioned over here, buffer and NOT. Buffer just passes on whatever the inputs to its output terminal with whatever values. Always remember, the for any input with a value of z, the output always will be x. For input as z, output won't be z. Output will always be don't care. The first preference will be don't care. With respect to not, all the values will be negated. And here is my program that I have written. Let's try to simulate that as well. So let's try to remove this comment out. Now since buffer and not comes with only two terminals, one is input and one is output, so I have out and in one, then I'll try to comment this into, because if I don't comment it, since in2 is mentioned over here and I'm not using anywhere over here, it throws an warning, that is your written in2 but you are not using that. So here also I'll try to comment it out. So I'll try to do this. Yes. So then open up buff1. So I'll try to save this and then I'll just remove this for time being. Yes. Then I'll try to synthesis this. Let's try to figure out how exactly this works. Buff. So basically, as the buff indicates the buffer, so buffer should pass on the values that are given at the input. So whatever the value that you give at the in1 should be passed on to output. So let me force a simple clock. These are all the very simple programs to understand. Then I simulate it, then I do this, I expand it. Look here, whatever the input is there, that has been passed to the output. Whatever the input 0, 0, 1, 1. So everything is passed to the output. So that's the beauty of your buff gate. On the same line, you have NOT gate. NOT gate also does behave the same way, but it negates. Again, any changes in the program, you have to come to the implementation and do the synthesis. Again, the same thing you will be doing in your laboratory exercise also. So we'll be synthesizing it again. Oops, there is a warning over here. Let me check what is the warning. Output out is never assigned. So what is that output out? Okay, here I have written it as out, here I have taken it as out, but in the program I am taking it as out 1, so I need to change it. Again save it and then synthesize it. Once you synthesize, now that warning will should go. Yeah, again there's a warning. That's because here it is in and here you have defined it as in 1. Do the changes. See, these are small warnings that will fluctuate or that will deviate your outputs. So if I save it and if I synthesize it, the moment I synthesize it, you'll see that it will be coming with no errors and warnings. So green tick. Come to the simulation part, do the simulation. Now, the moment you do the simulation, you'll see in 1. I'll force the clock 1, 0, and then I'll simulate it. Now, this is a NOT gate, which means it should negate. Look, for 0 it is 1, for 1 it is 0. So, for every input, the output will be negated. So, that's how your NOT and buff gates work. Now, there is one more conditional NOT and buff gates that are present over here. That is your buff if and not if. So wherein your simple NOT gate and a buffer is coming out with one more terminal called as control signal. The only difference with respect to the other a simple NOT gate and a buffer is that it assigns a control. In the sense, see, if the control is not negated, then that condition is if one condition. If the control is negated, that condition is if zero condition. So this is buff if 1, buff if 0, which means this will act as a buffer if the control signal is 1, logical 1. This will behave as a buffer if the control signal is 0. This will behave as a NOT gate if the control signal is 1, not if 1. And this will behave as a NOT gate or inverter if the control signal is 0, not if 0. So these conditional statements will be assigned to these two primitives, and the truth table is mentioned over here, and we'll be instantiating the gates. We'll try to simulate that as well. Let's quickly glance through the truth table. For 0 it is 0, for input of 1 the uh, depending on the control signal. See, this is buff if 1, which means only the output will be acting as a buffer if the control signal is 1. So I need to be worrying about this column. So if the control signal is 1, then input will be floated to the output. For rest of the cases, if control signal is 0, it is Z. Here also, this is not if 1, which means control signal should be 1. If control signal is 0, then output will be high impedance. If you have an reverse condition, the output will be Z. Similarly over here, buff if 0. If 0, look over here. If 1, it is high impedance. Then you may ask, what if the control signal is X or Z? If it is X or Z, then you just remember two cases. If the control signal is X and if input is also X, the output will be X. If the control signal is X and the input is Z, the output will be again X. See, for input of X and 0, output will be always X. I can see here, for input of X and Z, output is always X in any cases. In any cases. In any cases. For input of X and Z. For input of 0 and 1, if the control signal is X and Z, then what will be the condition? See, for an input of 0, if the control is X, since input is 0, control is X, X could be 1 or 0, my output will be, I say it as low. In the sense, depending on my X value. See, for example, X means what? It could be either 0 or 1. So, depending on this X value, if X is 0, output will be 0, that means low. If x is 1, definitely then output won't be having any repercussion, because for a control signal of 1, what will be the output? Output will be z, because for control 1 it is not going to work. But for control x, the moment you give the input 0 means it will consider as low value, 1 it will consider as high value. For control signal of z also it will retain the same value. For input of 0 the output will be low value, for input of 1 the output will be high value. So this is the truth table of your BUFF and NOT if gates. Let's try to simulate this particular scenario as well. I'll try to comment out this one and try to open up. I'll bring this over here. BUFF 1 again with an instantiation. Try to remember that instantiation. Save this. Come over here. Synthesize it. Now there is a simple warning coming over here. That's because one term you have mentioned as control, but have you mentioned that in the input output module instantiation? No. So you should be mentioning that control signal. So now I'll save it, I'll synthesize it, then it should show me the green tick. Oops, there's a warning. Let's see what is the one. Control was not declared. Fine. You defined it as control, but what exactly control does? Whether it's the input or output? Of course, it's an input. So let's try to declare here. Yes. So these are the small things that how you can tackle the warnings and errors. So I'll synthesize it after saving. Then now it should come with a green tick saying that entire program is right. Yes, it comes. Now what program we are running? We are running the program of BUFF1. Fine. In the sense, this should work as buffer only when a control signal is having a value of 1. Fine. So let me force the input as clock. I'll force it as a clock. And let me force the clock control signal also as a clock. I'll get different varieties of clocks and simulate. Don't try to force as a constant, because for a constant you will be getting only one value. If you force at a clock, then you will be getting multiple values. There it is. See here, this is which program you are writing here, running over here. BUFF1. So BUFF1. If control is 1, then only you behave as a buffer. If control is 0, you don't behave as a buffer. It means that, look here, control is 1, whatever is the input, output is same value. Control is 1, input is 1, output is 1. Control is 1, input is 0, output is 0. What if control is 0? Control is 0, output will be having a high impedance. So that's what I was telling over here. The moment if the control is 0, look here, I did this exercise, but if 1, control is 0, I'll just try to rub it out. Control is 0, that means output is high impedance. So that's what you obtained here in the result. So that's how you can simulate different varieties of logical gates. Now I leave this an exercise to you. You can simulate all these. Buff if 0, not if 1, not if 0. It only indicates not behaves as a NOT gate only when the control signal is 1. Not behaves as a NOT gate only if the control signal is 0. It means a control statement is being attached to these gates. So that's it. We have seen different gate instantiations, gate primitives, user-defined gates, and now what is the difference between the user-defined and the primitives that are available in the library. So let's try to summarize with some exam questions. So what could be the possible exam questions? A straightforward exam questions. Explain and or gates. Explain buff not gates with examples. I already mentioned some examples. Try to uh, reflect your answer with those examples. So these are the three possible questions that could be asked in the examination. Now in this lecture, we have learned how to model the basic Verilog gate primitives, and we described the gate primitives available along with its truth table. We saw its implementation through instantiations in a simulation window. And since all these concepts require recalling and understanding of certain facts, you recalled certain gate primitives, truth table, you understood and you represented. This entire lecture comes under level 2 of Bloom's taxonomy level, mapping to course outcome number 2. So that's it from today's lecture. We'll see, or we'll try to simulate, we'll try to cover a few more aspects of Verilog in my subsequent lecture. So thank you for the patience listening. Thank you.